Today's very special video, I will be showing you guys a recap of Squid Game Season 1. So it mostly starts off with Gi-hun as the main character. He is in his middle 40s or early 40s, and he has really bad financial debt, and he relies on his mother for money. It is his daughter's birthday, and his mom gave him money to take her to a fancy dinner, but he gambles it on a horse race. He surprisingly wins 10k yen, or won, I can't remember, from it. He rushes to an arcade, but he gets caught by loan sharks and he runs, but he gets bumped into a girl who pickpockets him and takes his money. The loan sharks catch up to him and then threaten to take his liver, tongue, and eyes. If he does not give him the 4 billion won or yen by next month, they will take his liver, tongue, and eyes. He's at a subway station now, and a salesman comes up and asks to play a game of dachi. If he wins, he gets 100,000 won or yen. I'm pretty sure it's won. If he loses, he gets just slapped in the face. Ji-hun ends up winning. The salesman gives him a business card with a number. He calls the number, and he's told to meet up at a location with a time. When he arrives, he gets in a car and gets knocked out by gas. He is now at the Squid Game island. He gets into the red light, green light game, and a lot of people end up dying. Ji-hun almost died, but Ali Abdul catches him just in the nick of time for him to get to the other side. Now, they're back in the room. They're all very scared because they've just witnessed half the people in the games dying, which is equivalent to around 200. So now they're all like, "We want to leave, please." But then this guy named Sang-woo, he graduated from business school, the top school in all of wherever it is that they live in. I'm pretty sure it's Japan or China, Asia maybe. And he was the top of his class in business school, and he made to read the consent form that he had to sign in order to play the games. And it said in clause form 3, if the majority players agree to end the games, the game must end. And that's how the game ended. And then they all got tied up, knocked out, and then they got thrown out on the nearest town where they lived. Ji-hun quickly goes into a police department and reports about it. Of course, they don't believe him because the only real evidence he had was a business card with a number on it that didn't work anymore. Sang-woo actually ended up with Ali Abdul, and he gave him a phone and money for the bus. Eventually, Ji-hun finds out that his mom has diabetes in her foot and she might have to get it amputated, but they don't have enough money, so she might die. So now he's like, all right, man, I wish I didn't quit the games. But then he gets another business card and he decides to join again. Now the game is the cookie game, or Dalgona. And what he decides to do, since there's only 2 minutes left on the clock, he decides his sweat drips on the cookie, and he realizes that it makes the cookie a very small, but still massively helpable, because the cookie with water or spit will dissolve better, and that also helped player 001 or O.L. Nam. We'll get on him later. He's pretty important. Then the next game is Tug of War. 10 players with 10 teams. One player ends up not getting on a team, but she's not killed because of one of the game's rules. And before we start the recap of Tug of War, this got on to a detective called Junho. He hears about the report that Jihan made before he entered the game the second time, and he decides to follow the car that he was on because he spied on Jihan. Then the car eventually leads onto a dock, which goes on a ship. Then he gets out of the car, he gets back in the car, in the passenger seats, and he pretends to be one of the players. And then he takes out the guard, takes his suit on, and then throws the body overboard. Now he is disguised as a pink guard. Then, once he arrives on the island, he still has his phone, and he's taking pictures, notes, and videos about everything he can capture about the games. He also finds out that one of the players is a really good doctor, and the guard that he took sells organs of the dead bodies, and he had the doctor help him, and his other people that also sold organs with the doctor. And then eventually, the doctor gets caught and killed, along with the other guards, besides Junho, because he escaped. Now everyone's going crazy looking for him. On to Tug of War. 10 players with 10 teams. Jihan ends up with Sangwoo, O.L. Nam, Ali Abdul, and player 67, Se Biak. And they learn a tactic from the old man, or O.L. Nam, player 001, that if they lean back and then jolt up while running a bit, the players will fall over, which gives them an advantage, because falling over is not really the best thing to do in Tug of War. So they end up winning. The next game is Marbles. This is probably one of the most tragic games that happen in all of the series. And at this time, Junho, the detective, ends up with enough stuff. He puts his phone in a bag, sealed up, and he takes a scuba diving gear and goes to the nearest island. Marbles. 50% of the players will die in this. There's teams of 2. It is unclear how many teams of 2 there is. Jihan ends up going with his friend O.L. Nam. We also learn before red light, green light that he has a brain tumor. O.L. Nam, actually, the place that Marbles takes place reminds him a lot of his childhood. And when he had a kid, and he took care of it, and it was almost a replica of a house. Near perfect replica, down to the right pond in the front yard. Sangwoo ends up going with Ali Abdul, which he tricks by saying something along the lines of, some people will not play the games. So if we just don't play, the guards will have to do something with the remaining players. So if we just count off how many players there are by the end, we might have a chance of both surviving, since one of them will end up dying with a game of their choice. But Sung-woo actually betrays Ali into giving him rocks and Sang-woo getting all the marbles. In the game that they were playing, whoever had the most marbles at the end wins. So, man, this one was sad. So, Ali ends up dying. Very sadly. Mind you, that this was one of the most caring players. And he just got betrayed. His last words were, Sang-woo, I've gotten inside Sang-woo. Very, very tragic. Ji-hun actually ends up winning, and player 001009 dies. Our friend Sabiok, player 67, goes with a friend whose parents died and she has nothing. That is why she wanted to enter the games. And there's 16 players left, and we're now on to the game called Glass Bridge. With a 29% survival rate. There's 16 players, with the main players being Sabiok, Ji-hun, and Sang-woo, along with player 101, the main protagonist, besides the people that created the games. And actually, once a couple players die and fall to their death, one of them, player 001 in fact, ends up stopping, so he won't go until someone else goes, because he does not want the 50-50 chance of survival. But eventually, his ex-girlfriend, it's actually like crazy confusing, sort of pushes him and her off. So it's sort of a weird sacrifice, I guess. And then there's actually a person that made glass, along with the other three remaining players, Sabiok, Sang-woo, and Ji-hun. He can tell which tempered glass is, where you'll fall immediately, between real glass, where you won't fall. And eventually, there's one thing left, and 10 seconds left out of the 15 minutes. And Sang-woo actually ends up pushing him off in order for survival. Now, the final three players are Sabiok, Sang-woo, and Ji-hun. They all end up going to a fancy dinner inside of the games as a congratulations for winning. They have a really nice steak dinner along with these new customized suit thingies. But they all keep their knife that they use to cut their steak. And Sang-woo actually ends up killing Sabiok because he knew that Ji-hun and Sabiok would agree to end the game, and that was the remaining players in the majority in order to quit the games, and no one would get money, and it would go to the dead player's family. And then they go into the last game called Squid Game with a 50% chance of survival. No matter what you do, you will have a very, very small chance of survival in this game. It is called Squid Game, ironically with the name of the TV show. The 6th round going against Jihan and Sang-woo. Jihan ends up winning because Sang-woo realized, well, he's already there. I've already sacrificed so much and he has so much to live for. All I have to live for is my potential business that I haven't even started, and I'll still be in a lot of debt, and it'll take me a long, long time to clear up all my problems. But all he has to do is pay 4 billion won and help his daughter in a court case so his daughter doesn't go to America, and he'll never see her again. He has a daughter. He's a dad. He has so much more to live for. And then, with his knife still in hand, he ends up killing himself. Which is very traumatic because Jihan actually wanted to end the games, but then Sang-woo killed himself in a sacrifice of friendship because they actually known each other since childhood. So now, Jihan actually won. But he is now talking to the front man, which is like the second leader for the games behind the actual host. There's a lot towards the leader because actually during the glass bridge game, the leader, the front man, actually caught Jun-ho, and then he took off his mask, revealing that he is Jun-ho's brother, In-ho. And then he shot him off of the cliff, nearly killing him. Or did he? We'll get onto that in a second. Then, Jihan ends up living exactly like he did because he has now survivor's guilt, which leads him to all he really did with his money is pay off his debts and live exactly how he was, drinking but no gambling. Then the host of the game brings him flowers. No, he recruits a person like the salesman, but in flowers. The flower salesman gives him a card with one of the flowers, telling him to meet at this skyscraper thing. And he actually learns that 001 OL Nam is actually the host of the games. And he says that rich people get so bored because they have nothing to do. Because they're so rich, or something like that. And then they see a homeless guy that's in the really bad cold weather outside, and he's just passed out, and they make a bet. One last game, like, sort of. If it's just like a game, not really a bet, really, but they bet if Jihan wins, how he will win if someone helps the homeless person, and OO Nam will win if no one helps the homeless person. But eventually, the homeless person actually gets help, just in time for OL Nam to die. So now, since he's more recovered because of the help of OL Nam, he realizes that I'm not gonna just sit here wasting my life drinking alcohol or something. So then he decides to buy a ticket to America, then go see his daughter. But then while he's going there, he takes a subway station, and he sees the same salesman from the very beginning that was playing dachi with him, but he's playing dachi with another person. He's there nearly in the nick of time to see the salesman go on the train with the closed door, and the future player, there while holding the business card in hand. Jihan decides to take it and tell him to never mess with this stuff. And then he decides to call the number, and the voice tells him players 456. Since Jihan was player 456, you should get on that plane. But then he doesn't get on the plane, and he decides, man, how am I just gonna sit here, go to my daughter, while 455 people die every single year because of the games? They will all have daughters too. I need to make this one sacrifice so thousands of people don't end up dying. And their family has no idea where they are, so I'm not going to go on the plane, and I'm going to try to save everyone and end the games for once and all. And then the voice tells him, you should have got on that plane, Jihan. With him, dyed hair, and Sabyuk, and he actually adopted Sabyuk's brother, and gave it to Sang-woo's mom, who doesn't have a son no more. And Sabyuk's brother didn't have a family, so it's sort of a win-win. Jihan actually gives the mom of the noose, gives Sabyuk, what am I saying? The script sucks. Yeah, so Jihan gave the lady that is Sang-woo's mom, that adopted Sabyuk's brother, Jihan gives her like $1.1 billion or something, I don't know. And then he ends up, and then that's where the season ends. The main questions before you watch season 2. Will Jihan end up stopping the games? And is the detective really dead? If you want to find out, check out my latest season 2 video with a surprisingly a lot of views. And after you watch that, you can watch my massive hit, the season 3 trailer. And to anyone that's complaining how it's fake, it's straight from the show. I don't know what you guys are on. It's quite literally straight from the show. So I don't know how it can really be more real. I'm gonna make a whole video about trash talking people with this. And if you want to see that, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. And I'm so surprised I actually made this video in time. I only wrote like to the part where Ali catches Jihan in the red light, green light.